So with all the trials and tribulations with Drifter and your goal to make a film before 30, the film eventually ended up on Netflix?
Yeah, I mean, it was it was pretty quick turnaround too, which is quite shocking. I mean, like, it was, the whole like first quarter of like 2017 last year was pretty hectic because it was like, because I was prepping, I was like in the thickness of like prepping Monster Party and meeting with all these actors for that, and then Drifter was like screening at UCLA, and then it finally had a little theatrical run at this like art house theater in Hollywood, and then it went to iTunes and like Amazon and all that afterwards, and then once we were filming Monster Party, it went to Netflix in May of last year. So no one had any more excuses to not watch the movie. So like everyone started to watch it then, and that helped so much that it went to Netflix, and it's like when it goes to Netflix, it's you start to like learn about the darkness of the internet and the trolls and everyone has an opinion and everyone loves to comment, and at a certain point they all just start saying the same thing, and you just stop, you start like, there's no point responding to any of them. I just don't respond to anyone, like if they're like obnoxious comments, it's like you just didn't get the movie, you just didn't get it, like, but yeah, I mean, like, it definitely like helped a lot. I mean, because like the people, then there were people that like totally loved it and totally got what the movie was, and got some very nice messages from people and some not so nice messages from people, and so it's like, but like that's if you're gonna make movies, I mean, like, it's gotta be thick-skinned, it's like you just gotta embrace it, but yeah, it was a very interesting time when because I just wasn't expecting the movie to get as much exposure as it did. I thought it was gonna, get like a little like, small distributor and just like sort of like just move on. But then like when I'm like the Hollywood Reporter's writing about it, and like IndieWire's writing, like all, and then it's like, really getting released all over the world. I'm like, well, there you are, and every decision you made is all up there for everyone to watch. And but it's like, I don't regret anything. It's like, I look back at it, it's like, I mean, at that time, that was exactly the movie I wanted to make, like, so it's like, I mean, I just wanted to just push the soundtrack and push all that stuff, just maximize the aesthetic, and to see where you got to pull back for later movies. Because this Monster Party movie is like, it's a similar kind of like, kind of genre hybrid kind of storytelling, but like, I mean, it's still a very different movie at the same time. Like, so like all the mistakes that I learned on that movie that people had no problem telling me about, I feel like I learned a lot from that, and because I always read like, a handful of bad reviews and all that, because like, you just want to like, you just want to like know what bothers people, what doesn't work for people, and like just fix that stuff, and because like Monster Party, we spent like a year on the script, I mean, like, I just wanted to make sure that it was, I mean, just an improvement. I just want to make sure, if anything else, I just want to make sure it was an improvement. I feel like it is. Yeah.
It's interesting because I was watching an interview with Margaret Atwood. It was a BBC documentary or something, and she was talking about her first book. It blew out the numbers that they had projected.
Yeah. And
someone gave her the advice, and he just looked at her and he said, now they can shoot at you.
Yeah.
And especially too, where does this darkness come from?
Yeah.
You must have gone through these traumatic things. No, this is just what I write about. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have experienced them to go to that level of darkness. And so, yeah, she talked about it as well. So that flip side of, wow, I mean, did you really think that Drifter was going to get to that level when you were making it, or you just needed to fulfill a goal for yourself?
I needed to fulfill a goal, and I had no idea that it was going to get the kind of exposure it got, and I mean, it was great in the long run. I mean, it did everything I needed it to do, so I have no regrets about any of them. But I mean, like, if there is one regret, I just wish we spent a little bit more time on the screenplay, and I wasn't so unbelievably impatient, because I'm a very antsy kind of person, and but now I've like grown so much, I think, as a filmmaker after that, because that movie like kind of changed a lot of things of how I want to approach things. So it's like, now it's like I've like grown to actually love writing now, and like want to spend a lot of time on the screenplay, and not just want to, because I think Drifter, I was just like, at that point I was really concerned about just like visual construction and like and composition and aesthetic and style, because that movie's all about the style. There's it's all about the mood and the atmosphere and the music and the style. There's nothing really much more to it. That's very much what it's about. It's like a big music video or something, and that's just like, that's, at that time, that was the kind of movie I wanted to make. And now I'm much more interested in like proper character development, proper narrative, because like that's why Drifter was a very particular kind of movie, because like even my shorts are nothing like that movie at all. It was like that movie, I was like, let me just get this like ultimate nostalgic movie out of my system and just purge myself and, you know, just chock full of all the stuff that I've always wanted to do, you know, just the things that I've loved growing up, and all these obscurities, and just like push everything to the max from beginning to end, and just see where it lands, you know. And it was very like, you know, it was a very polarizing movie when it came out. I thought it was a very interesting reaction that the movie got, because I was like, really, this such a small, tiny little movie, and you know, it generated like a very like polarizing emotion from people. Like a lot of people take it very personally with that movie, like the way they were like reacting to it. So I was like, I mean, it's like, it's like, as long as they react, it's like, I don't care if they love it or hate it. I just want people to react to it and have an opinion about it, you know, whether it's good or not. Because like, you know, if you believe the good reviews, you have to believe the bad reviews. So it's like at a certain point, it all just becomes like moot, and just like, you just don't, you know, like they're all helpful, but it's like you shouldn't let reviews like, because the good reviews don't matter and the bad reviews don't matter, like in the grand scheme of things. But like, I think it's just good to, you know, just read them a little bit, not being so distant from them, because I think they're taking the time to write about your movie. They might be crapping all over it, but they are taking the time to write about them. I mean, at the time when Hollywood Reporter like gave a review, I was like, wow, this is like a tough business. When that, you know, because they gave a review that was you know, not the best, and it's like, you know, they're not wrong, like that's how they feel, but I just like reading that stuff, and like even when they're criticizing it, they're still complimenting it inside of those, you know, it's like, you know, because I think a lot of people thought it was like a much bigger movie. So I mean, but like, you know, I don't think like it being a small movie should ever dictate how harsh you're going to be on something. It's still just the movie itself, but it's like, I do think some people literally did think that it was like $1 million movie, and like, and it, you know, just wasn't at all. It was like, you know, like peanuts. It was like, so I mean, I thought that was kind of funny that like they were kind of giving like almost like backhanded compliments in a way, but you know, yeah. I mean, but you know, I think embrace the bad reviews, embrace all that stuff, because it's just all part of making movies, you know.
How did you get a distribution deal for it? How did it come up?
My cinematographer had come across a sales agent at the South by Southwest early 2015, and he had asked him if he had any movies that he was working on, like horror films, and this was one that we were in soft prep for, and I met with him right before we were about to shoot, and then he switched over to a different company, like a sales agency company, and then him and I, he just kept in touch with the movie. I was like sending him all these stills, and he came to set a couple times, and then we cut a trailer for the American film market in 2015, which was very, very much like just as commercial of a trailer as we can make it, just very much like straightforward action thriller cannibal movie, and like our movie is like not that at all. I mean, it has all that stuff in it, but it's, you know, it's a weird movie. And so, you know, make the trailer to like show at AFM and like get buyers to be interested in it. And there was like a couple distributors that he was constantly talking to for a while we were editing the film, and I hated showing work in progress versions of the movie, because I'm like, no one's gonna truly be able to experience this movie until it's mixed. Like this is like, it's just a very specific kind of like hybrid tonal poem kind of like whacked out kind of experience, and like the soundtrack is so paramount for this movie, and like like I just need to finish the movie before you truly see what this thing is, and I think that almost about everything. It's like I never think the movie is good until it's finished. I just don't. I mean, and when I say finished, I mean like mixed. Like I think the mixing is like the temple for the movie, and people underestimate that a lot, just like adjusting volumes, but I think it's like really much more than that, and all the little nuances really dictate the experience. And yeah, I mean, he was like really loyal in the film, and then yeah, I mean, we were able to a couple months after we finished the movie in like April of 2016, we had like a little like friends and family screening, and then a couple months later we were able to lock in like a U.S. distributor, and then learning all about like the deliverables and all like then we're getting like the document. It was like, it gives you a migraine, like your brain starts bleeding, just like reading all these things, just like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. But then you show it to like, you know, your sound mixer and your editor and your assistant editor, and then it's much more, you know, they understand it much more clear. It's just so overly technical the way it's described, and it's so many things they got to send. But yeah, I mean, like then like we were able to, and you know, they ended up releasing the movie in like February of 2017, but Australia released the film first, like around Halloween of 2016. So it was like on DVD out there, and then after that, like then the following spring, it started like snowball and go US and Canada and Germany and all these different places, and all these seeing all these like fake posters that like Germany made and all these different seeing these like fake posters, like, you know, some are awesome actually, but like some I see them, it's like, well, it's good artwork, but it's like, it's so unbelievable. Like I see what you're doing, like, but it's so not what this movie is at all. Like I remember like one poster said like the Book of Eli meets whatever. It's like, oh, don't. This movie is like, it's like a weird like acid trip, David Lynchian kind of. It's like not. It's, you know, it has like cool action stuff in it, but it's like not, you know, it's not like this movie that you're just describing to people, you know. So I thought that was kind of funny, but because like some people when they see the movie are like, what the fuck, you know. But I just think that's kind of fun though, when people like. Sometimes like are marketed something and then they see something like when Drive came out, everyone thought it was like Fast and the Furious, and some people were saying like, what is this movie? Like, but I think that's a nice surprise though sometimes, you know.